is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome into the Triple Option. I'm Paul Catalina alongside Garrett Ross. We have a lot to get to today. I feel like John Oliver. I've been hard at work, Garrett. I'm very proud of myself.
You should be.
I'm just going to say, in about 24 hours, I learned how to do graphics. And I have made a bunch.
You have.
See, I didn't do that one. That was Matthew. But there's one over here. Like, you can see these graphics here. That one right there, I did that. Now, it's not that big of a deal considering that I am graphicking at like a 7th grade level right now, maybe 8th.
Got to start somewhere.
But, like, you know, your normal average 8th grader is pretty badass at doing these things. Your daughter's a senior in high school, right?
Yep.
She could probably just run circles around me with this without even trying.
Yeah. I was thinking about that this morning, like, because I want to start doing this as well, and I should have been doing this. But, like, we didn't learn this. Like, this is a total different thing. Everything we do, like, we kind of taught ourselves this on the fly. So, like, it's something that I would like to get into, and I've tried before, like with Canva and stuff. I know there are easier ways, but, you know, we got to try. We got to get out there. We don't want to be left behind, Paul.
No, we do not at all. And let me just tell you this. I had computer applications and keyboarding. You took one semester, one the other semester. And keyboarding was just typing. Literally could have been rolled into computer applications. You know, we learned Excel and Word. Like, it was the easiest. Like, most of the time, Coach Cahill, who was the teacher of that class, and a guy who, I promise you, did not know a ton about computers.
Imagine that.
But Coach Cahill would give us a project, we would do it, and then we would play solitaire or free cell or Minesweeper for the rest of the class.
Yeah.
Look, was it a class that has given me any value in today's world? Very little.
No.
But I did really love Coach Cahill. He was great. But I can tell you right now, under no circumstances, did I learn anything in 1997 in that class that applies to today all that much?
No. It's like I came along a little later, so I would have been like the 99 to like 2002, but it was about the same. And like where I went to school, we were one of the poorest schools in the state, so we didn't really have much to work with. But yeah, no, you gotta keep adapting, man. And I'm proud of you, Paul. You should be very happy with yourself.
Yes, I am. I'm thrilled. I'm very proud of how this all went down. And I owe it all to a program that TikTokers use called CapCut. But I figured that out. I've tried to use Canva. I've tried to use other things. CapCut is way easier for me, and I'm not trying to do a commercial for them. They're not paying for anything. But when I mentioned it to Jack, it was like I told him, like, hey, did you guys know the silver handle on the back of the toilet makes it go bye-bye? Like, that's how he reacted to it.
Yeah, he ticks different.
Yeah, he does. He does. So I remember thinking, well, that stings a little bit, Jack, but okay. So, yeah, I don't know what the deal was there, but yeah. So I'm very happy that I've learned to do this. Very, very happy. So, but let's get to college football because there's a lot to get to. You and I have a lot to do between shows today, so I don't want to mince words. I don't want to waste time. By the way, want to mention that the Saints have fired Dennis Allen, their head coach.
Nobody saw that coming.
Yeah, they're lost. I wonder when the Cowboys will do the same thing. But there's a lot to get to. So this last week we saw some things that we should have expected. We should expect James Franklin to not win big games.
Correct.
I'm not going to get into the stats right now because I don't want to ruin the badass graphics I made for the main show. But James Franklin against anybody who is perceived, at least before the game, to be better than them, has a win. One. Like, they're really good at being average. Just good.
Yeah.
They're good. Look, Penn State's a good team. They're not a great team.
No.
And I don't know what it's going to take for them to become a great team. But they do not beat. And here's the other thing. We have all this realignment nonsense that's gone on. One of the things I'm loving the most about this year is that this has exposed, particularly SEC and Big Ten, to, hey, maybe, just maybe, you're like all the rest of us.
Yes.
Maybe you're just not all that great. Maybe you did a better job at selling yourself than the other conferences did, but let's make no bones about it. You get bigger TV ratings because you do have big fan bases and big audiences, and that's fine. And the SEC has earned this way more than the Big Ten, but particularly for the Big Ten, you guys have been Ohio State and everyone else until a year ago.
Yep.
And now you bring in Oregon. Guess what? Oregon's already winning that league.
Yeah.
Already winning that league, and already, to me, looks so much better than everyone else that's in it this year.
Which is weird. I really thought, like, I knew Oregon would come in and hang, but you would think that they wouldn't dethrone, and I'm not saying, just like on the field, they dethroned Ohio State this 1 year. I thought it would take a few years for them to kind of come in. I thought they would be able to push Ohio State early on, but now that the way they've handled it this year has been really impressive, and you cannot sleep on the Ducks as like being the front runner of that league going forward.
No, absolutely not. They are so good. And they, in my opinion, have by far the best coach of anybody going right now.
Especially for this era.
Yeah.
I think the modern era, Dan Lanning is the dude you want to play for.
Yeah, he's figured it out.
Yeah.
He's got it figured out. And if you keep going on, like if you keep like getting deeper and deeper into what Oregon's doing and like the tentacles they have and things, he was the guy they always needed because he was a guy who surprisingly wasn't looking out the door.
Right. Yeah, he wants to be there.
He wants to be there. He would be the Alabama coach if he wanted to be.
Yeah.
He would be the A&M coach if he wanted to be. He would be like, there would be, of the jobs that were open last year, all of which have more money than Oregon. I know Oregon has Phil Knight, but Oregon has Phil Knight and then not a lot else.
Right.
Bama and A&M and schools like that, Georgia,
they got oil money.
They may not have a lot of Phil Knights, but they have a lot of smaller Phil Knights, right? Or they might have a Phil Knight wealth-wise and then a bunch of smaller ones. Like Texas has so many. Ohio State has so many, right? Oregon's a pretty small school as it goes, and they have Phil Knight. That's a big deal because it's Nike, and then you can attract athletes because of Nike. But when it comes to, you can't just always go to the one well.
Right.
Right? You have to, like, that's why.
Well, you kind of saw that with Oklahoma State, right? Like, you just had T-Boone, and then once he was gone.
Yeah. You can't just keep going to, like, Texas has many wells to go to.
Right.
If one dries up temporarily because he's mad about, you fired this assistant coach that he liked, or, the kid that went to his high school, never started at quarterback, and he's going to be mad until that coach is gone. Well, guess what? There's two more that didn't like that guy in the first place.
Right.
He's not going to give you his $1 million. We'll give you $2 million.
I got you. Yeah.
We got it. But not every school has that. Dan Lanning is the dude there. But I think the Big Ten's been totally exposed over, all right, you're Ohio State. Yes, Michigan finally came up, but then Harbaugh leaves, and Michigan is right back to, like, they're exactly back where they were.
Yep.
Everybody else is, very cyclical in the Big Ten, just like the rest of the country. Okay? You are Ohio State and everyone else.
Yep.
And so, unfortunately for Washington, had they been able to go in and, with Kalen DeBoer and not have to make a coaching change, that might be a little bit better, but even still, even if Kalen DeBoer comes back, Parker Brailsford, the only starter that would have been there, right? Like, the only one. And he's now at Alabama with Kalen DeBoer. The rest were all graduating and going to the pros because Kalen DeBoer built one hell of a team. So there was going to be a drop-off there for Kalen DeBoer or now for Jed Fish. USC, frauds. I mean, they've got Lincoln Riley he's
in trouble.
He's flailing. Like right now, he is flailing. So, and UCLA, in spite of the win over Nebraska, which I cannot believe happened. I cannot believe that happened.
Pissed, man.
Oh, man. Of all the losses Nebraska's taken this year, of the 4, they're 5-4 right now.
That was the one.
That one is the one that stings the most. But if you go back to Illinois, that's the one that I feel like they maybe let their momentum get away.
Yeah,
if they don't lose to Illinois, they probably don't lose to UCLA, because then that little demon doesn't get in there. Mm. Indiana is its own thing. Ohio State's its own thing. But those two kind of live in a little category together of, you should have probably got this.
Should have definitely.
You should have probably got this one. Over on that, they've got 3 games to try to find a win to get to a bowl game, which I think that they will against.
They
these
should
teams.
be able to.
But I was playing well on offense. Now Caleb Johnson's really tough to stop, and so. But all that being said, they're getting $90 million on the TV deal. All right, fine, but don't pretend to me like there's better football being played in the Big Ten than anywhere else.
No.
Because it's not. No. It's at best the same, and at worst, worse in a lot of regards. So, don't send me letters about how the Big Ten is, it's one of the premier conferences. Yeah, whatever. I'm not buying it. Mm-hmm. There's very little difference. The only difference in the Big Ten and the Big 12 and the ACC is they're 2 big, powerful brands right now, because I promise you, Penn State would not beat Miami.
No, God, no.
They would have a hell of a time with SMU, and they probably would have a hell of a time with Clemson, as much as I think Clemson.
That would actually be a really good game.
Yeah. Be a good game. So don't tell me you put Penn State in the ACC and Pitt's not gonna put a charge into them or something like that. No, I'm talking about right now. The Big Ten dudes are Oregon, Ohio State, and Indiana.
Yeah,
Indiana's a good team. I don't know how long that can last, but this Indiana team is really good. They score a ton of points. They're hard to beat. I would put Indiana up against anybody and expect them to give them a game.
Right.
Oregon and Ohio State, I pretty much expect them to win. As a matter of fact, Ohio State's only losses by 1 point to Oregon. So I think Ohio State is way more vulnerable, but in the end, come on. Mm-hmm. This is not what the SEC has been. Okay. And the only reason that they have 3 teams in this discussion, because I don't think Penn State's anything to write home about, and I think they'll make the playoff even still and lose in the first round, is because Oregon, who wasn't even in their conference a year ago, is in it now.
Yep.
So this is a pretty severe rant, I know, in the Big Ten, but this is what I felt all along of, you were
going to get about what? You were going to add probably 5 to 6 good matchups a year, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
But that was it.
Yeah. I mean, and so, that's why the realignment thing, there's 2 sides to this. Now, in the SEC, they have potential right now for an 8-way tie, which won't happen, but please, honestly, if I have to throw a sheep into a volcano or something, I'll do that.
I'm all for it.
Just please, I would love to see. I want to see the tiebreakers used to the last tiebreaker in all these leagues because of realignment.
Yeah.
I think it's what they deserve.
It is what they deserve.
It's what they deserve.
The most chaos as possible.
Yes. Again, create. What was was it in Russia or in China? Do you remember that China, they had that traffic jam that just lasted for months?
I don't remember that.
It was a few years ago. They had it was in Russia or China. I think it was in China, where they had to shut down a road for construction, and then the plan on where to route the cars was not a good one.
Did not go well.
And they had a traffic Mageddon or whatever they called it, and people just had to leave the car until they finished the road. Basically, it was awful. That's what happened. Or if you remember a few years ago in Atlanta, about a decade ago when we had a freeze. They had a freeze.
Oh yeah, and everybody. Yes, I remember that.
There was snow
abandoned on the
and everybody got stuck there.
Yep.
My favorite story about that is Chipper Jones went to go get Freddie Freeman. Chipper Jones rode out there on his ATV and picked up Freddie Freeman and left the car there. So, yeah, like that's what I want. I want that metaphor to come to life in college football. I want the biggest traffic jam ever.
Well, I think we're starting to get that. If you look at the AP poll, it's definitely indicating that. I still have some questions about how all that unfolded. There's teams who have like head-to-head wins that are above, and it just doesn't make any sense. But the parity's here, and I think the parity's going to stay. I think also like it's catching up to we've talked about it, but the rosters, you're not able to hoard the players. You're seeing more talent go out. I think you're going to see more and more programs year in and year out, like Indiana, where you have these teams who just kind of get hot at the right time and have big seasons. And I think you could look at it like you did last year, where Florida State was that team, kind of like Indiana, and then you just weren't able to sustain it. But I think this is kind of the new landscape of college football. I'm interested to see how many people can capitalize off it. And then does it change when all the NIL and everything goes in-house and then the schools are required for everything? Does that bring more I wouldn't say like does that benefit the Blue Bloods more than it used to? Does that kind of counteract the parity we're starting to see?
I think it will a little bit, because they can say, well, we're going to give the full this amount.
Yeah.
And some schools are like, well, we can only give,
only do this.
You're going to give the 22%, we can only do 17.
Yeah.
But ultimately, there's only so many people you can put on a roster. Mm-hmm. And, I think the difference will be mostly negligible, and we'll see what happens in 2031 when the new contracts are up. Let's take our first break right now. When we come back, I want to rattle through some important games of the week that shook things up. This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome back, Paul Catalina, Garrett Ross. The Monday recap from Week 10. These are the games that, obviously, we talked about Ohio State and Penn State. That was the biggest one. But there were a lot of games that affected the playoff this weekend. A&M went out, crapped the bed against South Carolina, absolutely destroyed in the second half. Look, South Carolina jumped out on them. A&M got it back. And I thought after halftime, I said, this thing's probably going to be 34-27. A&M comes out and, wins and, But nope, South Carolina took it to them in the second half, shut out A&M. They didn't pee a drop offensively in the second half. The Gamecocks win 44-20, thus putting A&M back in the, still their first SEC conference loss. But I just know, as someone who's watched all of them for my whole life. That
was one when we were doing our picks last week. I kept going back and forth on, because I kept thinking, A&M's coming off that big win against LSU. To me, it is a rivalry game now, and they do not fare well after rivalry games. They just do not. South Carolina is a really good football team that should be at least 2 wins better than what they are. Lenore Sellers ultimately cost him the game with his trying to make plays that just weren't there, and ultimately he turned the ball over. It cost him against LSU. It cost him. Was it Bama that cost him against as well?
They have a 3-point loss to LSU and a 2-point loss to Bama.
And they should have beat both of those teams.
Yeah.
So, I'm not surprised to see them beat Texas A&M. I'm surprised to see them beat the hell out of Texas A&M.
Yeah.
I was kind of shocked by, but that was one where I really kind of gone back and forth on. But it was a great win for South Carolina. They're just kicking themselves because they could be in the mix for the playoff. They just didn't handle their business early on.
A&M should be 9-2 with New Mexico State and Auburn coming up. They should win those 2 games. And then Texas, Thanksgiving weekend, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. But, they're like, oh, hello, trap game. What's this?
Yeah.
Like Chewbacca, like grabbing the meat, and chewy, no. Like they're right in it. Right in it. So, Georgia got a scare from Florida.
Yep.
Florida's now 4-4. They have Texas this week,
job.
a game they're not going to win. DJ Lagway not ruled out yet against Texas. I think that is gamesmanship because he looked pretty severely hurt. It's a hamstring. Those things, even if it's not as bad as you think, a hamstring still, why risk it with a 4-4 team?
Right.
I get you're trying to save your job, Billy, but also this is how you also save your job. You don't ruin the next superstar of the program's career trying to save your job. You just, hope, do the right thing and hope for the best. But Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, the next 3 for them. I don't think he's going to save it, but for a while there, they were going to haul off and save his job. Carson Beck, by the way, came into this year ranked as the number 1 quarterback. I'm going to tell you right now, I would not be surprised to see him come back to Georgia next year because his draft stock might have plummeted.
He's not. He is exactly
he's throwing a
that.
ton of picks.
He's throwing a ton of picks. He is a game manager at best. He's not very much different than Stetson Bennett. He's a little more athletic. But yeah, I've been really disappointed with how he's kind of played this year. And you see all the talk around him was all of that talent he had. And while Georgia's still good, they have a lot of talent and playmakers. They don't have the depth that the playmakers that they once had that were kind of could mask those inefficiencies from Beck, and just starting to see it. And I think people are starting to wear and dial in on Georgia, and they're not intimidating as they used to be anymore.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of all coming into one with them.
Look, there's no super elite team.
Not at all.
Like even as much as I waxed rhapsodically about Oregon a second ago,
You can
like,
beat them.
Still, they're vulnerable. Like everybody's vulnerable, which is the best thing that could have happened to college football.
Yep.
This is the best part of all this is that at least for now, no one is like, oh my God.
Yeah, we don't have to run through Bama or run through Georgia.
No.
Yeah, it's
everybody has an Achilles heel. Iowa State. I knew this would happen eventually, and I knew it would happen just this way. I did not think it would happen against Texas Tech.
If it's the
because
most
I thought it was a
fitting
bad matchup, but here you go. I mean,
I wouldn't look. I didn't think that Tech would get them, but if you think about all the distractions last week, right, with Tech, they had to come out and make a statement. They made themselves look pretty bad. Whether it's right or wrong with the technical issues and everything, the way they handled that made them look pretty bad, and they needed to come out and rectify it. They did just that in Ames. They looked completely dominant at times, which was fascinating to see. But, yeah, that was one that you knew somebody was going to get the Cyclones. I honestly think that BYU is going to get got in a couple of weeks. I think you're going to see a situation with them where Arizona State sneaks up on them after this bowl game, after this rivalry game with the Utes this week. But, yeah, you knew it was coming, but the way that happened was pretty impressive by Texas Tech.
Yeah. Another game in the Big 12 that affected the playoff. Houston upsets Kansas State in Houston, and Kansas State now – on the outside looking into that championship game and really needs to win Farmageddon now.
No, they do.
If not, look, they've got to keep winning, but their next 3 are Arizona State, not a gimme, Cincinnati, not a gimme, and Iowa State and Farmageddon, not a gimme.
Yeah.
Obviously. So that one is huge. The Big 12 completely shaken up this week. Tech, Colorado, all these teams still have a fighting chance in this thing if it continues to get muddled. And don't look now. Houston's 4-5.
They're the weirdest team in the Big 12.
If they go 2-1, they're in a bowl game. I don't know if they can do that. I may pick them this week against Arizona.
I think that would be a safe pick. I think they could beat Arizona.
I think maybe Arizona's not playing great right now. So if they're on the way up, I think we're going to have Zion Chris this week on the show. We have Taj Brooks. We have Taj Brooks today. At 4:30. So make sure Tech fans, everybody, Big 12 fans, every college football fans, but we've got the man himself, Taj Brooks, today. So very excited about that one. SMU, very much in the playoff hunt, although I think they're being very disrespected on their ranking, as they absolutely took it to Pitt. Ole Miss back in the discussion after a huge win over Arkansas. And who am I leaving out of this? Oh, yes, I forgot. Clemson, not going to make the playoff now. Not going to do it with these two losses. They might, but let's face it, a 10-2 ACC team with some of the things with their schedule. Their schedule is really bad. They got walloped by Georgia, and by all intents and purposes, Louisville beat them pretty bad. Mm-hmm. Like, I know it came down. It was a 12-point game, but Dabo Swinney made a very, very, very bad decision at the end of that game, which wound up not mattering because once they scored it, that they didn't score again. Right. But he could have cut the lead to 11 instead of 12 and didn't even try to, just kick the extra point. So I'm a little bit baffled as to why. So is Bob Wischusen and Louis Riddick. Yeah. They were like, what is going on here? So yeah, that was a crazy one. What do you make of SMU right now? What they've been able to accomplish? Like we haven't really seen a team make this adjustment go up and it be as smooth. Brandon Marcella wrote about it. They're the best team transitioning into a new conference ever. Like nobody has ever had this good of a first year. But look, they have a great offense. Their defense is way better than advertised at the beginning of the year. They really do. They get after the quarterback. They do everything well. They have a very good coach in Rhett Lashley. They've been waiting for this opportunity for a long time. Yep. They're taking it. They're absolutely – they're kind of the opposite of Oklahoma, right? Yeah. Oklahoma's been a team that, could have kind of gone to whatever conference they wanted to forever. They made that decision that year one they're in the SEC, and year one in the SEC they're not good at all. They're not good at all. SMU, was wanted this opportunity for a long time. It's like they understood, like, hey, year one we have to make a statement. Mm-hmm. Whether that's winning the conference, competing for winning the conference, it's got to be one of those things. The people in this conference need to know, especially since we're taking no money on the TV deal, mm-hmm. we're paying our own way and all of that. We have to make sure that they know that we are not messing around. And SMU has certainly done that to this point in the season at 8-1 and undefeated in the conference. And I'm hoping. Look, I'm hoping that them and Miami are the ones we get to see. I think there's a very interesting story in that Miami's been in the ACC for a while now. They've never won it. SMU's not been in for a while. Mm-hmm. They've only been in for a few months technically, and they could win it. I think that's a very interesting storyline for a championship game. I don't know. Like, I honestly don't know who would win that game. Like, I don't know who I would pick in it. I would probably lean towards Miami, but Miami's defense is good enough. Yeah. I'm going to stop short of calling it bad. It's not bad, but Louisville scored a ton of points on them. Duke scored a ton of points on them. Their offense is the best in the country, and that's what saves them from having to have this big-time defense. They've got some good defensive linemen. They've got a couple good defensive backs. They're not really that great at stopping the run, though. Mm-hmm. Duke had them, Duke back and forth for a little bit, and then it's just depth and athletes that got them, So, and they could have lost to Virginia Tech and Louisville already. Mm-hmm. So that's the thing is, like, they've won some good close games. Yeah, and SMU is better than Louisville or Virginia Tech. Oh, yeah. So I think they can avail themselves well against Miami in the playoff. We'll take one more break here. We'll come back. We'll kind of wrap up the week, and then we'll be off getting ready for a very big show on 365 Sports. Today, this is the Triple Option with Paul Catalina. We'll be right back, everybody.
Fantasy Sports EVO, the next evolution of daily fantasy sports. Tired of traditional fantasy sports where you spend hours upon hours studying individual players? EVO's unique team-based platform makes it easier than ever for all sports fans to play. No need to know individual players. Just choose your contest, select your teams, and enjoy the game. Whether you access our website from a desktop, mobile device, or the app, the experience is the same. EVO is for all sports fans. Join Fantasy Sports EVO and experience the evolution.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome back, Paul Catalina, Garrett Ross. Garrett, it's our favorite time of the year when it comes to college football. It's where the playoff committee gets together and they sit in a room and they tell us things that don't matter for a whole month. And then at the end of that month, they'll tell us something that does matter that most of us will be mad about.
Yep.
So, there were a bunch of us who were mad about a lot of things. Now, 8 less people will be mad. So, in reduction of fan bases mad per year, you have gone down by 8.
Yep.
As opposed to all of them. Even the ones who are like number 2 are like, no, we should be the number 1.
Yep.
Are you telling me we're not better than Washington? Okay. All that. Mm-hmm. No, it'll still be that way. It'll still be mad. There'll still be contention. It's just going to be on a different scale now. The goalposts have moved, but we'll find out those rankings tomorrow night. Some interesting things happened in the rankings this week, and I know that this is going to be the end of a very short show, but like I told you guys, Garrett and I have a ton to do to get ready for a big show today. I want to make sure all that's good for you, so a little bit of a shorter triple option today. And if you've been watching on Fridays when I do the show without Smokey and Craig, we have a regular guest named Peyton Soysher of rankingsrightnow.com. Yep. Now that it is playoff rankings week, this is what he's been working for with this algorithm and the site for all this time. So every day at the end of the show, we're going to show you a short video as we end and we say goodbye from Peyton Soysher. Monday through Thursday, he's going to do this for us. And you'll see, kind of the things he's pointing out on the rankings. So you're going to see that from Peyton. Tomorrow there'll be another one. Wednesday he'll react to the rankings. All of that's coming up. It'll be short, nice, short, and sweet. So you can share these with your friends. Create discussion topics. Have that barbershop, water cooler, lunchroom, coffee pot talk about the rankings. But this is going to be Peyton Soysher for Rankings Right Now. Thank you so much for watching the Triple Option. We'll have a longer show tomorrow with Royden, but Peyton Soysher Rankings Right Now gives us his thoughts on some of the things from this weekend of games as they apply to the rankings and what Rankings Right Now thinks could happen tomorrow night. This is the Triple Option with me, Paul Catalina, and Garrett Ross. Thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow.
Hi, everyone. Chief Rankings Officer Peyton Soysher here on the Triple Option with Paul Catalina. We have so much to discuss with Rankings Right Now, the real-time predictive algorithm that tells you what the rankings will be of the AP poll and the College Football Selection Committee each week. Now, we are going to dive into who were the biggest winners and losers of Week 10 this week, according to the AP poll and our predictive algorithms. And to start off, we have so much going on in the top teams in the rankings. Specifically, if you want to go ahead and take a look at Ohio State beating Penn State this weekend in Happy Valley, an enormous win, especially after a loss earlier this week or earlier this season to Oregon. They were finally able to overcome that hump. Our algorithm predicted in real time that they were going to move up to number 3 in the rankings, and that's exactly where they landed. The algorithm also predicted Penn State to drop down 4 slots to number 7. They actually ended up at number 6. So Penn State still deemed very highly regarded in the AP poll. You still have your big boys, Miami, Texas, Tennessee, that are still in that top mix. Another really big winner, Ole Miss absolutely dominated Arkansas, put up 60 plus on their home turf. Arkansas hadn't given up more than 40 the entire season. So that was an enormous win. Ole Miss jumps up a lot higher. Our algorithm had them moving up to 13. They actually ended up moving up to 16. So The algorithm is giving them a little bit more benefit of the doubt. Thought would have moved up a little bit higher, but still within striking distance of that a top 12 playoff. Now, we need to talk about the biggest losers. And arguably the biggest loser of the weekend was Clemson. Clemson had their chance. They had Louisville at home, a night game. Those are the toughest games to play. They just came out flat. They just didn't have it. Bad decision making at the very end. You can go into a bunch of different situations on what should have been, but the algorithm had them dropping down to 22. As a matter of fact, they only dropped down to 19, but an enormous drop. And when they really needed to prove to the country, to the ACC, that their weak schedule to start the year was not even a thing to worry about, they haven't beaten a real team all year. That's going to put them in a really tough position to be in serious contention for the playoff committee, to be in those top 12 teams going into the playoffs. Now, another big loss on the weekend, Texas A&M got absolutely housed by South Carolina. South Carolina looks like they had something to prove. Bad defense. I think a lot of people overlooked South Carolina. South Carolina, all their losses throughout the year, maybe except for one, I think, to Ole Miss, have been really close, really competitive. They are a great team. They're like 2 bounces away and one bad ref call from being maybe like 6-1, 7-1, 8-1. Like they're a lot of those games they should have won. So right there, you have Texas A&M dropping all the way down to 20. They actually only dropped down to the 15 in the AP poll, but overall, a really big weekend, some really big seismic shifts in the rankings landscape. We're going to have a bunch of things continuous throughout the week. Stay on the Triple Option with Paul Catalina. Go to rankingsrightnow.com. Play around with the What If simulation tool. You can get real-time updates on your Saturdays to find all of the rankings before they're even released. You'll know the little secret that is going to be coming on those Tuesdays when they release the rankings, on those Sunday mornings when the AP poll comes out. You'll already know what to expect. You'll know before anyone else. Thanks for joining. I'm Chief Rankings Officer Peyton Soysher on the Triple Option with Paul Catalina.